the most incredible experiences I've had in a long time. Just gathering this group of people from a bunch of different churches and life experiences together for a weekend to think deeply about this, to get to know one another, to share our stories. I haven't experienced something like that.
You're listening to the Faith and Work Podcast, where we explore ways to serve God and others in our daily work to bring life and hope to workplaces and cities.
Welcome to the Faith and Work Podcast. My name is Ross Chapman. I serve as the CEO at Denver Institute and get to be the host of this podcast. And I'm excited about the conversation you're going to hear today. We actually had 3 5280 Fellowship alumni join us to talk about their experience in one of our most long-running and key program areas at Denver Institute. And why you should care about that is there are actually other organizations like us who do a similar kind of program all around the country. So there may be one close to you if you haven't done one, or if you want to invite somebody to do that. You can actually learn about those on our website, on the 5280 Fellowship page on our website. We list a bunch of organizations that are doing them. And we're really excited about this because it's one of the best things we do. It's one of the best things we do because it gives us a chance to be with people, the same group of people, for 5 months. And they get a chance to learn together, grow together, build community in their city, learn about their city, and start to think about how their work intersects with their faith, not just in how they are being shaped, but also how they're contributing to what God's doing in the world. So it's a really fun conversation. The 5280 Fellowship is led by one of my teammates, Brian Gray, who's our VP of Formation. You'll hear some of the fellows reference Brian a few times, and just wanted you to know who they're talking about. He's been doing it a long time. He's really great at it. We're so glad he does. And so we have 3 really incredible guests joining us today. One of them is actually behind the scenes all the time on the Faith and Work podcast, and that is my coworker, Naomi Hartman. She's our public engagement manager at Denver Institute, and she primarily focuses on event management, but also does our podcast production. So we're really grateful for Naomi. She has had a career managing various nonprofit ministry events in both Christian camping, prison ministry spheres. She's extremely passionate about hospitality and gathering people for a good purpose so that they can continue to grow. She also loves music and comedy and hosting dinner parties with her husband, Kyle, who also went through the 5280 Fellowship. So you'll get to hear from Naomi. You'll also get to hear from Daniel Haywood. He's a mechanical engineer with an eclectic mix of roles. He leads a new dating app, hosts a podcast about children's books, is in the process of starting a new service to better support people going through grief. He has also been part of a large consumer tech company, and he believes deeply that technology can be a powerful tool for health and flourishing, physically and relationally. He also loves all the cool Colorado things that people move to the mountains for, like hiking, skiing, paddleboarding. So Daniel's super cool. I'm excited for you to hear from him. And Kashni Thompson, she is an account manager at Tech Systems, which is a global technology services organization. She helps Colorado public sector and mission-driven organizations tackle their most pressing workforce and tech challenges so they can better serve the communities that depend on them. Before entering the corporate world, she was a first and second grade teacher at a public elementary school during the pandemic. And through that experience and her transition out of that role, she developed a passion for helping organizations create meaningful, lasting impact in the communities they serve. We're really fortunate to have super qualified, amazing people join the fellowship every year. And we're excited for you to learn why it is such a cool experience. And we hope that you'll listen closely to see if it's something that you want to do, or if you know somebody else who might want to join, you can share this episode with them. So, Kashni, Daniel, and Naomi, welcome to the Faith and Work podcast. I am so glad to be talking to you today. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Ross.
Good to be here.
Yeah, well, okay, so each of you just in 2026 started and completed this program at Denver Institute called the 5280 Fellowship. And we wanted listeners to get a chance to just understand what that is, why it exists, and what kind of impact it's had on you guys. So let's just go a little further back in your story and think about before you decided, I want to maybe apply for this thing called the 5280 Fellowship in Denver. Like, what was your relationship with work? How did you think about work? What role was it playing in your life? Like, just help us understand kind of where you were at that point. And hopefully we'll hear maybe it's a little different, maybe it's not, but give us a kind of a window into what your work was and how you were thinking about it and experiencing it. Keishni, we're going to start with you.
Okay. So before the 5280 fellowship, I was really wrestling with what work meant to me in the lens of my faith. Rewind 5 years ago, I was an elementary school teacher in Minnesota. I was teaching first grade and second grade right over the pandemic. And so it was very easy for me to understand like how I was doing the Lord's work. Like, I'm literally loving on his children all day long. Mm-hmm. And then I decided to make a pivot into tech corporate, and that was a much harder connection for me. And so I knew that the Lord cared about what I was doing, but I didn't really understand why. And that was like a daily thing I was wrestling with. And so I really wrestled if I should have done the fellowship or not. And Ross and a strong mentor of mine, Nicole Gunter, she really encouraged me to do the fellowship just because they both knew some of the things I was wrestling with, and they felt like the fellowship was going to be valuable, and it was.
Awesome. Mm-hmm. Okay, so you were in a job where it felt easier, then you were in a job where it felt kind of hard to make that connection between your faith and your work, or why would God care about that job? Mm-hmm. All right, we're going to come back to that later. Okay, Daniel, tell us a little bit about your work and what that was like for you.
Yeah, so for a long time, I had been working in big tech companies, early stage R&D on new health sensors, which actually felt super meaningful. Because it's like, man, this thing can help 100 million people like live a healthier life. And so it was very easy to kind of see the kingdom principles within my work. And then like last year, I decided to leave all that behind and go on this weird, wild adventure doing my own thing. And so that was right around the time that fellowship applications were open. And it's like, man, this seems like a great opportunity to put some structure and some community around this transition out of a context where I had a lot of structure around my work, where it was pretty easy to see what I was doing and how that impacted people for good into this much softer and squishier kind of professional context.
That's really cool. Can you tell us like what prompted the move out? Like what was, factoring in like, leave this big tech company where I see a lot of purpose and meaning to do your own thing?
Yeah, it's something I've wanted to do for a long time, to just go try things, to build things. I love to have an idea and create something from it in the world. And big companies can be a good place to do that, but there's also a lot of constraints that they apply. And so having the freedom to go explore really wacky ideas, which I am doing now, it felt really nice and felt really attractive, if also a little scary.
Yeah, I'm sure it felt scary. It would feel scary to me. Naomi, my coworker, tell us a little bit about what you were thinking about work before 5280 Fellowship.
Yeah, well, first, it's just like an honor to sit around the table with each of you. And the more I get to learn about both of your stories, that I just get so excited. And even just the way both of you talk about how you're viewing work, and it's really inspiring, even for me. I feel like we've just started the learning process, even though we've now graduated this program. But pre-5280 Fellowship, I was working at Denver Institute, and so I was surrounded by theology work a lot. I didn't enter Denver Institute for Faith and Work really knowing much about theology of work, but by the time I started the program, I kind of had the language down a little bit. I kind of understood some basic principles, but I was feeling very much a disconnect between the things and principles that we were talking about every day and then my actual internal working life. I got the rhythms of Denver Institute, but I didn't have it really in my soul quite yet. And I wasn't slowing down enough on my own to really start practicing those things and practicing what we preach, literally. And so I think my work life up until the fellowship, and this is after 4 organizations of all Christian nonprofit passed in my career, that I'm a really hard worker. I'm really performance driven. I put a lot of pressure on myself. I'm definitely like a typical firstborn, oldest child,
type A.
like type A. Yeah. I'll want to like produce and please everybody for sure. And I was newly married when I took this job. And so work had since been a huge part of my life, and I really liked working, and I wanted to see myself grow in my career, and I'm ambitious and all of these types of things. But the darker, more like broken side of that is that it was overshadowing a lot of other areas. I was sacrificing the wholeness of my life, and work was taking up probably like 80% of my time and attention. Things, not necessarily completely. When I signed up for the fellowship, I felt like in that space, but there's been lots of moments in my life where I've felt that work has, not the actual tasks are overwhelming, but it was like taking over my life and I cared too much. And so wrestling that with the Lord too, of should I care? I think you care about work, but I feel like I'm caring too much. I feel like, my anxiety is getting out of control and it's revolving around work. And so kind of wanting to take a pause on some of those deeper questions of the internal formation of how work is forming me, and wanted that to be renewed.
Awesome. Well, all of you, just thanks for sharing. Hopefully the audience is listening and noticing their own story and your stories, whether it was easier at one point to connect what I think is most important in life to what I do every day, to transition. And like that is a major thing in life, to make a job change. And we all do that at some point. And also to just think of it as performance, or, to have your sense of contentment or satisfaction kind of wrapped up with like how well you're doing at work. Those are all just like normal things everybody faces in their daily work. So all that to say, like, your experiences are common to humanity and also unique to you. And you entered into this fellowship with those realities. I'm curious, could each of you just say, like, what put you over the line? I mean, you mentioned a couple people, specifically Nicole, Keishni.
And you.
Well, yes, yeah, but really Nicole. Just like what put you over the edge to say, like, yeah, this is the right time. And I want to make, there's a time commitment, there's a financial commitment. There's got to be a willingness to kind of be open to what God's going to do in those moments or those months, in those conversations. Like, what was really behind, like, all right, I'm in, I want to do it?
Yeah. I think for me, when I was reflecting about, like, okay, to your point, this is a big investment of time and there is a cost to it. At some point, I had to make a decision around whether or not I like it or not. We spend most of our day at work. I wish it was with our family, but that's not the reality of the world that we live in. It's at work. And so I wanted to make sure if I'm spending most of my time at a job, I need to ensure that I'm doing it through the lens of my faith. And I came to a point that I realized that I couldn't do that alone. I needed to do that in community, and the fellowship offered that. One thing I really liked about the fellowship is I personally am very involved at my church and I love the community at my church. But that's kind of the bubble that I get to live in. And I feel honored to be a part of that, but it is a bubble at the end of the day. And the fellowship offers an opportunity to get different perspectives from people who are of different denominations, who attend different churches, who are in different industries. And that was super intriguing to me. Like, I want to know how other people who have navigated this sort of transition, maybe through the lens of someone that's not non-denominational, is thinking about this. I want to understand how someone who's at a startup company is thinking about this. So the diversity of the fellows was really intriguing to me. And also, just like anything that we give, whether it be time or money or whatever it may have you, it is an offering to the Lord. And I know that whenever I offer something to the Lord, He will do with it abundantly more than what I could do with it. And so I did firmly believe that if I'm going to offer my time and my money towards investing into how the Lord sees my work, that He will do abundantly more with that time than I could do on my own. So that was ultimately what put me over the edge.
That's awesome.
So good.
Yeah. Cool reasons. All right.
I can kind of spin off of that because it didn't put me over the edge of the reasons that you said for the relationships and the diverse industries and meeting people around the city who are also trying to think deeply and about their work and their faith, and who care deeply about their work and care deeply about their faith. But that became one of my favorite parts of the experience. I didn't enter it for that, but that's just so unique because we do often spend a lot of time with our church communities. And now I have friends all across the city in a bunch of different churches and a bunch of different industries, and can call on people and connect people from the fellowship with my other networks, which is extra fun. The thing that put me over the edge, I actually wasn't really considering joining the fellowship until my husband, Kyle, really wanted to join the fellowship. And I said, well, okay.
Let's go, Kyle.
If you're doing it, well, I want to do it with you. It's my workplace. It's like, it's my workplace. And I knew it was an option. I just also see myself here for, several years down the road. And I said, okay, maybe not this year, but like, I'll do it eventually. I'll do it one of these years. But because Kyle is in a particular like transition in his career and wanting to think more deeply and faithfully about some of these topics, he felt really motivated. So I kind of bandwagoned on that a little bit. But I will say and encourage anyone who's listening, it was a really fruitful experience for both our marriage and us as individuals getting to go through this process together. So
that's cool.
That's why I started, but I stayed for a lot of other reasons, like Keishani was saying.
Yeah, and we've had married couples do it together. You're not the first, but there's not that many that have done it together, which is cool that you guys got to do it. Daniel, what put you over the edge?
Yeah, I think it was actually a conversation with Brian, who leads the fellowship. And to be honest, I was a little skeptical last fall for a variety of reasons. I've been fairly exposed to the whole faith and work movement for a long time. And so it felt like, yeah, I know what this is. Mm-hmm. Like, I've been through all this. And I was a little skeptical because sometimes the faith and work movement has a very particular culture attached to it, which I've been very exposed to. And there's nothing wrong with that. But it wasn't really what I was looking for. And so I came to Brian just asking, like, hey, what is this? Like, who is in this? Mm-hmm. Like, is this all just a bunch of like 30-something white tech guys like me? Nothing against 30-something white tech guys, but it wasn't really what I was looking for. And so I met with Brian just to talk through, like, hey, what is this? And I was deeply impressed by the range of people and experiences represented in the fellowship. And that totally proved to be true in my experience. Like, met a bunch of teachers, volunteer coordinators, people working in housing, in all sorts of different public service sectors and financial services from all different life backgrounds, church backgrounds. And hearing from him that, like, yeah, this is not just a bunch of tech guys. I think that's what put me over the edge. It's like, I want to be around this. I want to be around people who are different than I am, thinking seriously about where faith intersects our work.
That's awesome. Well, it's cool. You all have some commonalities in what ultimately made you say, yes, I want to do this, and some distinctives. Which is neat.
Hi, I'm Jesse Marble, founder and partner at Wildwood Ventures, an early-stage venture capital firm here in Denver. At Wildwood, we invest in what we call healthy and active humanity, which is all things physical, mental, social, and spiritual well-being. And my own faith shapes how I think about that work every day. Denver Institute and its resources, just like this podcast, have helped me integrate my faith and work. As someone who's been a founder, operator, and now an investor, Denver Institute helped me see that the work of building companies, the risk-taking, the culture building, the caring for people, working with people all day, that is a way of serving God and loving my neighbors. As Denver Institute pursues this mission to prepare the people of God to serve God and others through their daily life, I want to see that mission reach more people, more founders, more cities. But that can't happen without the support of this community. If you've been encouraged by what you've heard on the Faith and Work podcast, or if Denver Institute has shaped the way you think about your own daily work, I'd encourage you to give. Become a monthly partner or learn more on the Give page at denverinstitute.org.
Okay, so we've been talking about work before the fellowship and why you decided to do it, but like, what is this thing? Like, help us understand, what is the fellowship? What do you do? How long is it? Like, what is it that is happening actually during these months that you've committed to? So let's go the other way around. So Naomi, you kind of start us off,
Sure.
Share some things about what it is. Daniel can fill in some gaps, and Keishani, you can close it out with whatever they missed,
Perfect.
Take notes. Yeah, it's a 5-month experience for early to mid-career professionals, and that can be defined a few different ways. But people who have a little bit of work experience under their belt, but might not be in the full fledges of leadership or C-suite or anything like that. And there was 22 people this year. Is that right? Yeah. So a group of 22 people ranging of all sorts of different ages and industries, like we mentioned. And we have some experiences all together. There's retreats as well as some Saturday sessions where we're learning, discussing things that we've read outside of the session, and receiving teaching and doing activities together. There's also in the mix of that more small group or like small cohorts where you're meeting regularly with the same smaller group of people to get them know them on a deeper level and discuss readings and activities that you're kind of doing outside of those group times.
Wow. Okay, well, you said a lot of time commitment things. So
well,
I heard
you
are. I know.
You're right though.
So I heard retreat, maybe retreats, Saturday sessions, and like maybe a more consistent rhythm of meeting with people. So large group, small group. So if I'm listening, I'm thinking like, that's a lot. Did it feel like a lot? Did it feel like a big commitment, or did it feel like something you guys were looking forward to when you think about the time?
I wanted more.
You wanted more time?
I wanted more. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was good.
That's good. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it seems like it would feel like it's a big commitment. Talk to me, Daniel, about the reading. Naomi mentioned like, oh, we're going to discuss readings. Like, what kind of readings, and like, what level of reading is that, and how much of it?
Yeah.
Is this like going back to school, or how would you frame this?
No, it's not that intense. But I mean, it's not insignificant. So the reading was mostly attached to like the small group meetings, sometimes to the larger group meetings. Often it would be a chapter from a book or an article that someone had written, covered a pretty broad range of authors from kind of secular thought leaders and commentators to like very deep theological work. Mm-hmm. Some of it was really easy reading and some of it was a little less easy. But generally it was, like a chapter of a book roughly once a week. It felt pretty accessible.
Awesome. That's good. Kashni, what would you add on what this experience is? What else did you do?
Yeah, I think one thing that I was hesitant about coming into the fellowship was the time commitment and the reading. I'm not great at school. So I was like, okay.
Spoken as a teacher.
Yeah, to first graders.
Okay, first graders.
Yeah.
Different workload.
Theology texts. So one thing, if you're a listener and you're thinking, am I going to be able to absorb this material? Is it approachable to me? Ross used this analogy before we started the podcast. I would think about this fellowship as not informational, but formational. We are not sitting in a room with a teacher lecturing us on content. Brian does a really good job of facilitating with peer learning. And so he'll prompt us with a question around faith and work. And I may learn something huge, not from Brian himself, the teacher, but from Naomi just as my peer and her experiences. And same thing, vice versa. She might learn the same from me. So it's a lot of relationship building, hearing other people's perspectives. And I think the fellowship is unique because their goal is to not give you the right answer about what the Lord says about your work, because ultimately everyone's job is different. Everyone's experiences at their role is different. It's more to spark curiosity about what the Lord is trying to do through you and your work, more than give you the right answer. And so to Daniel's point, I left wanting more too, because it wasn't this finality of, okay, I got it. It's like, I'm just starting to get it, but now I have a community that I can call up and ask questions and engage in that way.
Yeah. And there was even thinking about adult education, there was a variety of learning avenues. So for me personally, the actual reading of the article took a lot of discipline and it was difficult. And it really, I'm not a natural reader either, but it was really just a launch pad to get to do all these other things, to like center around a certain topic or to anchor some of these topics in deeper thought or like individual reflection before you come to your group session and get to discuss and hear about things. So I think it wasn't academic in the sense of you're reading and then picking it apart and then answering all these questions. The readings were kind of just a launch pad to get to do a lot of other activities and play with it.
Yeah, that's great. Well, it's exciting to hear. Daniel, what do you want to add?
To go a little deeper on the retreat, because the
Good.
retreat was one of the most incredible experiences I've had in a long time. Just gathering this group of people from a bunch of different churches and life experiences together for a weekend to think deeply about this, to get to know one another, to share our stories. I haven't experienced something like that perhaps ever. Like, it's a very unique, powerful experience.
And this happens like right towards the beginning, yeah?
Yeah, this was a couple weeks in.
So you get to know everybody pretty well, and you're already learning, like, let's think about this deeply together, and you already know you're going to learn from each other kind of as you get kicked off, which is pretty cool. Kashni, what's a Saturday session?
Saturday sessions, we do it once a month, correct?
Yeah,
Yeah,
about once a
sounds
month.
about right.
Yeah, once a month during the fellowship. And there's content that we prep with leading up to the Saturday session. And then kind of what I was mentioning earlier, Brian typically leads those Saturday sessions, and he continues to prompt us with questions. We'll do breakout sessions. We'll do peer-to-peer learning. Brian might present us with some different ways of thinking about the content. I do think the fellowship does a good job about presenting content that they expect us to disagree with, because I do think it leads to good conversation. And we become comfortable enough that we are okay saying, like, hey, I have a different perspective on that. Let me share that with you. And I think that's really unique, especially in today's world, around having different perspectives and feeling open to share that. And the fellowship is a very safe space. And then we get to learn from other people's perspective. So that's why I specifically liked the Saturday session. And we break out into our different cohorts throughout the week outside of the Saturday session. And so on Saturdays, that's when we're with the whole fellowship group. So you just get to see your friends that you normally don't get to see during the cohort, and it's a great time.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. So thanks for sharing a little bit about what people might experience if they were to do it. I think the most important reason that we do the fellowship at Denver Institute is to see people just have the opportunity in community and with some guidance, the opportunity to just reconsider, what does God say about work? And how does that have anything to do with a modern day job that I'm currently in? And as Kashni said, like, we're spending the majority of our hours there. So it's our primary arena for discipleship, our primary arena for how we can participate with what God's doing in the world often. So thinking of that question and like why we do it, we'd love to hear. You guys reflect a little bit on, did it do that? Did it help you rethink about work and how you're showing up in your job and what you might be thinking about longer term in terms of what you might want to do or how you would approach work? So, the simple question is, did this change you and in what way? But yeah, Naomi, let's start with you.
Yes, it did change me. And like we've kind of alluded to, I think it's really just the rocket fuel towards the future. I think more growth will come from this. But one of the topics that we discussed in the fellowship was really the creation story, and slowly and deeply and in detail looking at Genesis 1 and 2 and 3 through the lens of work and how we were formed, how we are image bearers of God. What does that mean for 2026 in an accounting industry or whatever you might be in? But for me, coming into the fellowship with a lot of this kind of internal turmoil of pressure and hustle and work hard, and this is wearing me out. I can't keep doing this the rest of my life, and I think something's off here. Those were kind of my questions. And so really just going back to the basics and getting to discuss in community, well, what was the original intent? What was the original way that God created us? What were his desires for the way we interact with work? What might be broken? And more specifically, I probably have thought about this maybe 50 times since our opening retreat where this topic was presented. But Brian helped kind of break down, we talked a bit about how some attributes of God are that he's omniscient, omnipresent, and omnipotent. And we are not. And we are finite. And he did not create us to be all-knowing, all-present, and all-powerful. And I have been acting that way. And towards my work, I have been assuming and thinking and expecting myself to be all of these things that only the divine is supposed to be. And so I think really from that, a huge shift in my perspective is enjoying, appreciating, and celebrating my humanity and my limits, and increasing my trust in the Lord with all the things that are undone. One of the exercises, we also do a lot of like spiritual formation woven throughout. So it's not just head learning, but it's like heart and hands as well, and practicing some of those things. So from that session, I wrote a short prayer called like some breath prayers to just have in my back pocket and remember in these moments where I'm tempted to be all knowing and all powerful and all present, that his limits for me are good. And it's just kind of a short, quick prayer. And even I say, your limits for me are good. And remembering how he is God and I am not has just been so simple, but so freeing in a lot of moments where it's 5:30 and I want to keep pushing more, or things are undone, or is the timeline and the deadline coming up? And I feel that anxiety come about. And then now I have a tool to be able to lean on and release those things back to God.
Thanks for sharing that, Naomi. That's awesome. Yeah, limits. Keshni or Daniel, you guys got something you want to share?
You want to go first?
Yeah. So it certainly did change me. Coming in, I think I already had a fairly mature framework for thinking about my work and how my faith informs that. And I can't say that it necessarily shifted a whole lot over the course of the fellowship, but I wasn't really looking for that. I was looking for people. And I had an incredible experience getting connected to a community of people thinking about this. I had a number of very tangible things come out of it. I co-founded a company with one of the other fellows.
Hey, there you go. So you're telling me that two entrepreneurs got together in the fellowship and launched a company?
Oh, it's even better than that. Because my co-founder isn't traditionally an entrepreneur, but she had a great idea, like a great insight from her own lived experience, from some hard things in her life. And it's like, hey, we can actually build something here. Like, let's get together and do this. And this seems to have like deep kingdom principles behind it. Let's just do it. And so it was the kind of thing where having a space where people are interested and open and thoughtful about, let's go create good things in the world. It was very powerful. So
well, you got to tell us what this company is.
Yeah. So this is a company that it uses AI to help support people who are going through hard things in life by more deeply connecting them with those around them. So it's not AI as a grief counselor. It's not AI as a tool to directly support you, but it's AI as a tool to help tear down some of the walls that separate people. When someone says like, I don't know if I should text this person and offer to help, we can give a little nudge saying like, yeah, do it. Like, because often we second guess those. There's a confidence problem. So it's early days, but we're pretty excited about it.
That's really cool. Helping people kind of extend love.
Extend love. Yeah.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Cool, man. Like, okay, we're going to launch companies now out of the fellowships. It's great. Except we're not doing it. You're doing it, Daniel. Okay, Keshni, how about you?
Yeah, I would definitely say this fellowship has changed me for the better. I'm sure everyone has heard this by now, but we are said to be the most anxious generation. And I definitely have fallen into that in my work. Some context about my work is that I'm in sales at a very high producing role. Just to give you an example, every Friday, they send out a report about how much we've produced, and we're stack ranked against each other. And I am clinically type A, so I can relate to you on that, Naomi. And so I want to be people-pleasing. I want to do good work. I want to be a high performer. And when I fall short of that, I become very anxious. And the way that this fellowship helped me reframe that is really thinking about who God is as Emmanuel and really leaning into God wanting to do work alongside us and with us. And because of that, I left the fellowship feeling really grateful. I think another reason why our generation is so anxious is because we are filled with choices. And so on the really hard days at work, it's easy to think like, is there a job that would pay me more for doing less? Is there a job I could work remotely? Is there a job that could do this? And we're constantly filled with the questions around preferences. And I think that's specific to the modern West. And I really got to be thinking about who is someone just like me that was maybe born in a different geographic location that doesn't even have the privilege to ask these questions? And what a gift is it that I even get to wrestle with these questions? And so on the really hard days at work, when I find myself spinning with questions around why I'm not good enough, that I didn't meet my metrics, or would it be easier to just go do X, Y, Z? I get to take a step back and say, what a gift is it that I even have the space to ask these questions, and I have the Lord to do this alongside. Let me just get a good night's sleep and try again tomorrow. And so the fellowship, more than anything, just really gave me tools to reframe some hard questions that I had about my job. And I have felt so much more energized in the last 6 months at my work, not because my work has gotten easier, but because I have the tools and people alongside me to do it with.
That's awesome.
That is so cool. I mean, to all three of you, just thanks for sharing your experience, and thanks for saying yes and taking the risk and meeting people and doing this program and just seeing what God would do with it and being open to that. And it's really cool to hear your stories. Thanks so much for joining the Faith and Work podcast today to share about that.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you, Ross.
Well, it really is a blessing and an honor at Denver Institute to be able to see people come together through the 5280 Fellowship, to grow together, to build new friendships, and to do that right here in the place where they live, and to really think deeply and to find ways of reminding ourselves of how God is shaping us through the thing that we do with the majority of our time. That's our daily work. And so we're really just grateful and thankful for these three people who shared their stories with the other 19 who were participating this year in the 5280 Fellowship. Over the last 10 years, we've had about 150 people go through this program. And like I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, there are organizations like us around the country that also offer a fellowship program like this. And we would just encourage you to check it out and see if it's a good fit for you. If you're in the Front Range, we would love to invite you to consider either funding somebody to go through the 5280 Fellowship or to go through it yourself. Maybe you've got an employee on your team that you would like to invest in. Maybe there's somebody at your church that you want to point them to this, or just a friend that you thought of as you were listening to some of our friends share their story through the fellowship. Applications for the 5280 Fellowship open Tuesday, September 1st. You can learn all about the fellowship at 5280fellows.com. And we would be so delighted to talk to you about it and help you learn more. Also, if you'd like us to come share with a group of people about what this program is and how it could be a good fit for them, reach out to us at denverinstitute.org. Well, thanks for listening to the Faith and Work podcast. Hope you enjoyed this episode. Like us, share us, subscribe, so more people can find this great opportunity to learn about their work. And may God bless you in your work this week.
If you've enjoyed this episode of the Faith and Work podcast, please subscribe, leave a review, or share it with a friend. The Faith and Work podcast is produced by Denver Institute. We believe that when Christians work faithfully, the world will taste the hope and life that Jesus provides. To learn more or to make a financial contribution, visit denverinstitute.org.